On this one, I started out by thinking that I came up with some really cool idea just to find out that I screwed up a lot on the front suspension. But we get it all back dialed in. Let's go. My problem with the Mustang 2 front end suspension kit. This is how the front or the upper control arm mounts, right? You got these T-bolts here that slide up into the slots, and then you depend on this knurl on the A-arm, as I throw the bolt, to basically lock this in place wherever you want your caster and camber to be, correct? I have heard of it happening where you hit a big enough bump, that happens and you completely lose your alignment and your SOL. I think we can avoid that altogether. I think that if I just build a plate off from here, keep the same specs, this might raise up a little bit, but I don't think that's going to throw off the geometry of this all that much. And then just run bolts through it like a normal GM style, or, you know, the normal way, I guess, of doing it. I don't like this. The more research I did, the more that, you know, this came up as an issue. And I just don't want that to be my issue. And I should have spent a little bit more money and got like control arms with Heim joints with a separate mounting system. But this is going to be my fix for the system I got, because these are pretty heavy duty. It's a Heights kit. I really like the quality a lot, but I mean, obviously if you spent more money, you could have got something a little bit more than, yeah. So let me show you my plan on how I'm going to fix that. What I have here is some 5/16 plate. This is just what I had lying around. But you probably get away with 1/4 inch plate because that's what basically everything else is made out of. But I'm going to use this 5/16 because heavy duty, why not? Basically you need to make a vertical plate that matches up with these holes that's as wide as those upper hats. And then probably make some gussets on the back side of it. But first off, I need to make basically a plate in order to fit in between this control arm that will weld up to there, and to make sure that it's as low as possible on there without hitting, in order to keep the geometry nice and happy. Oh, and also I picked up some bolts just instead of the T-bolts, because obviously you need something else. So these will go through that. That'll go on that. You get the idea. So first off, yeah, I'm gonna make a template and then make some plates up. Here are the two mounting plates all made up. Nothing fancy. I might make them fancy. I might like kind of grind this section out just to make them flow with the control arm a little bit better, so it doesn't look so square, stock, whatever. But you can see it bolts up nice and easy, and it has plenty of, I wonder if I can do this with one hand. Nope, I can't. But it can move just a little bit, so I can adjust my caster ever so slightly too, if need be. And I basically went ahead, ground down all the areas on these top hats in order to figure out where the plate needs to be. And I took a control arm, bolted up with the T-bolts, shoved it all the way back, made marks of where that was on here, and basically bolted up one of the control arms to the plate, set it on here, and figured out where it needs to be in order to keep, so that's what that line is for right there. So I just got to make it land on that line to keep how far back it can go. So now that we got that done, I'm gonna clean these up better and just kind of tack these in, because I also want to make gussets. That's why it's a little bit shorter than the hat itself, that tie into the side and then come down and follow this angle right here, so it just looks like all one piece. I think that'll look, you know, fairly normal. And I just got to make sure that I line it up exactly where these holes are to where the slots are. So yeah, now I'm gonna clean these up, tack these in. So I skipped ahead on you. I tacked them in and then bolted one up just to see the clearance and everything like that. And then I liked it. I liked where it was sitting, so I fully burned them in, both front and back there. And then I cleaned up basically where all the splatter and stuff went. So now I gotta make some gussets. They go from here to here. I'm sure that's not gonna move anywhere whatsoever, being 5/16, but I do want this just kind of like look like all one piece. So yeah, I'm gonna make those gussets. Oh, and I follow the contour of the arms, so it looks a little bit more professional instead of just a piece of flat stock looking thing. Yeah, let's make these. I'll burn those in a second too, and then just make it look pretty after that. These came out looking pretty good. I want them to be like kind of like organic, like it's one piece. So I ground down those sides there, the inside there, and I had to grind down where the washer would meet the faceplate there. Otherwise, it was kind of hitting on some of the weld there. This looks pretty darn good. Definitely sturdy as shit. So yeah, I actually want to mock up a whole assembly and then just run it through its travel and see what I lose and gain or whatever for camber. And then kind of see where the caster should be the same, because I mean, the bolt holes are exact same spot where the mounting holes are. I mean, and that is a little bit I mean, you put more washers or more spacers here to get a more negative caster, and then or this side for more whatever. That'll all come when the alignment comes, but I think that this is good enough, plenty strong, and will definitely save me from having that whole dilemma of hitting a bump and then losing my complete alignment. So yeah, sweet. Yeah, I'm gonna clean up here a minute. I'm gonna mock one side up and then just put an angle finder on there, and we'll go through the motion together and figure out if I'm completely full of shit or if this is gonna work out just fine. Side note though, I think I killed it. She couldn't keep up. I've had this thing for a couple years now, so you know what? It did its due diligence. Time for a new one. All right, got the driver's side all mounted up. I would do the passenger side, but I'm missing my castle nuts for the ball joints. I don't know what I did with them, so I'm gonna get some new ones before I can do that side, or just do one side at a time for now. Issues. I don't know why I'm having this issue. Actually, I do know. I kind of know. We're gonna figure it out. Right now, where it's at, it is perfectly straight up and down. So it's 90 degrees to chassis level, right? That means I have no adjustment for negative camber because it's flush against there, which doesn't make any sense to me, because if I would have mounted it to these hats all the way back, that's potentially where this would be, you know? I should have, this is my mistake, should have mocked all this up first while this was tacked together to know where I was at, and then moved it back further in order to do some play. So I have a couple options here. Also, okay, so another potential problem. So I think I put way too much heat in this gusset right here when I welded that on there, because that bolt does not go through very nicely. So I'm thinking that it's pulling, because heat shrinks, right? So it's pulling this arm in, which could potentially affect my camber in bottom, pulling top out, right? So that's one thing I need to adjust. I need to cut this and then make sure that this bolt is like free moving and then weld that back together. So that's on my list of things I need to do. I can kind of grind down the knurling and this section here in order to get that more in. I could do taller upper ball joints. We have options here, but I don't know what I'm gonna do. It's the next day. I had a night to sleep on my problems. First one was that these were not sliding in and out, but now they do. So I basically cut there, and then put it where it needed to be, and then welded it back together. So now I know that my control arms, lower ones, are right where they need to be. Now I got to worry about these upper hats, and I think they're way off, in my opinion, when I got to thinking about it, because if I was to flip this and mount it the original way, it'd still be where this is right now, which means I still wouldn't have any adjustment, which means this whole upper hat isn't where it's supposed to be. I want around 3.5 degrees of play, negative play, to go forward on this setup. So what I think I'm actually going to do is I'm going to cut a straight line across here. Same thing on the back side. I'll cut this back section out, and then I will move this back according to how much I need to in order to achieve that 3.5 degrees. And how I'm going to measure that is I'm basically going to put as many spacers as I need in here to get 3.5 degrees positive, which means if I subtract that, that would be 3.5 degrees negative. Because if you remember, I assembled this, it was at 0 degrees. Does that make sense? Makes sense to me. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna assemble it, figure out where 3.5 degrees of length out is going to be, basically cut this out and move it back at exact far, weld this in, reinforce this plate, and we should be good to go. Have all my cut lines made on the front and back side. Basically the way I did that is just a piece of flat stock here that I use because I know this is straight. Scribed one line and then used this, went 0.6 of an inch over, used this end, basically scribed it against that end in order to get the secondary scribe line there. And then I basically put that up like that, scribe that line because I know that this is level here, magnet off. And that will give me, this is my cut line here. Basically, after I cut this off on both sides, I got to line this line up with this line. And that will mean that this whole section is moved back 0.6 of an inch. There we go, got both sides back on. I did mock them up along the way. Don't think that I didn't while I tacked them on in order to check all of my measurements and stuff like that. So now I'm well within range to be able to dial this thing in, like for the alignment specs that I want. But one thing I do really want to do is get a little bit more positive caster out of this thing. And instead of like playing with the upper arm and making it tilt back, I'm going to take the whole lower arm and move it forward. So I just basically want to chop this section off. I'm going to take this bushing, I got this aluminum bushing here, and it's going to go on this side to make up whatever I chop off on that side, which will in turn move the pivot point or move the mounting point of the ball joint forward, which gives me positive caster. And you want around what do they say, like 1 to 2 degrees on modern cars. That's what you kind of want. It just gives you more stable driving on the highway and stuff like that. Like you can let off your wheel and it tracks straight. So that's kind of my goal there. I don't, because when I measured it out, it came out to be 0.5 degrees positive or negative caster on both of them. So which means that it is 0.5 degrees more forward on the upper than it is the lower. But I want, you know, more the opposite. I want like 1 degree on the upper according to the lower. So yeah, I'm just gonna chop that off. And then after that, I'm gonna assemble everything. I'll take some more measurements and then we'll go over it. Got it all assembled and then coated in a nice self-etch primer. It looks so good. And it's so in the specs that I want. So cross member, see if we can see this, 0. Go on this rotor. It's at like 3. Come over to this side. I know it's difficult for you to see, but that's also 3. Like, and it's bolted up the exact same way. And this just gives me enough play to space this out and to do caster adjustments if need be. And then also, like I said before, I cut off a section there and I've got this bushing in here, which shoves the lower arm out more, which helps with caster. So I have that adjustment also. So I can shim it one way or the other in order to adjust it in and out for the caster. It's a lot of times I just said caster. There's another one. Yeah, lot of freaking work, but things to look out for. Like I did not know. So hopefully this video can kind of benefit you. Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. There we go. I thought I was going to be so cool, and I came up with this such a cool way to like eliminate a potential problem when I caused so many problems. But we fixed it. Came back, fixed everything up. Now I know everything's within spec. So lesson learned, like when you're doing one of these front ends, just put your control arms on. Do all your measurements while everything's tacked up and go from there. I didn't do that because I was dumb, but learn from my mistakes. We got it knocked out. As always, guys, thank you very, very much for watching. If you made it this far in the video, hit that like, hit that subscribe. This car is getting closer and it's just looking more and more like a car, adding parts, even though they got to come back off. That doesn't make any sense, but yeah, it's getting closer. Thanks again, guys. We'll see you in the next one.